Hi everyone, my name is Kaitlyn McNutt and this is my year in the Humanities Academy. So, first off, who am I? I'm a 10th grade student at Morrison High School and I'm in my second year in the Humanities Academy. One of the first things we did at the beginning of the school year was we filled out an interest and a purpose inventory to kind of see what matters to us and what's important to us. What I found in my results is that they fell into mainly three categories. Firstly was my hobbies. Next, getting into a good college, as well as just being a good student overall. And then third was me time, so like relaxing and taking time to myself. And so when looking at this, I raised the question to myself, how can I turn something I'm interested in into a project? And what I chose to do was a project based around reading. The reason I did this is because reading is truly something that I love. I really enjoy it. I love books. And also, sadly, it is something I struggle to find time to do. I'm a very busy person and I often find myself not having time to sit down and read for an hour or so, and so I often don't do it a lot. Furthermore, I often waste the time that I do have. If I do have time to do it, I'll get distracted. I'll go on my phone, or I'll do something less productive, or something that doesn't really matter as much. Furthermore, I can't stay focused for long, which means that if I do find time to sit down and I want to read, quite quickly I find myself just out of it. No matter how much I like the story, my brain constantly wants to be doing multiple things at a time, and so I can't always be focused on reading for long periods of time. After noticing all these roadblocks, I began researching. I looked into different ways people read, how they stay focused during the reading, how they set aside time to read. I looked at different influencers on social media and saw what they recommended. And I also looked into different apps to track reading, such as Goodreads. And then I also experimented with audiobooks, and those I actually found to be really helpful because I was able to not just listen, but I was also able to do that and maybe clean my room. So I was doing multiple things at a time. With all that being said, I found that I often struggled to motivate myself to do these things. I struggled to do research and I couldn't get myself to do any of it in class. I often just wasted class time on my phone or talking to friends. And because of this, I realized something really quickly, which was I had no motivation to accomplish something I truly enjoyed. With this revelation out of the way, I decided to switch my project. Um, I decided to do it as a project centered around motivation. This meant that I would be able to include all aspects of my life, not just reading. And I could also accomplish more of things that matter to me in the long run because by improving my motivation, I can improve my ability to read or get good grades or do something else that matters to me. Additionally, it's something that many others struggle with. Something that's an important part of the Humanities Academy and our projects is motivating our projects outside of ourselves. Because of this, I found that motivation to be a great thing, and in the long run, I hope to eventually share what I learned with others, and help others improve their motivation as well. With all of that done, feedback night came. Feedback night is when humanities students get together and we present our projects thus far to the members of our school as well as of our community, and we receive feedback on them. During feedback night, I received a lot of helpful feedback. Firstly, I received feedback that I should reflect on what it is I care about. I need to think about what mattered to me and what didn't, and also what I actually enjoyed doing was versus what I felt what I had to do. By realizing this, I'd be able to notice, did I actually feel motivated or was I just forcing myself to do things that didn't matter to me or that I didn't actually enjoy? And with this, my goal was to edit my routine and edit things that I do and hopefully center my attention on things that actually matter to me. I also had to take note of what works in my routine. This meant I had to look into, by doing certain things first, did it positively affect or was it detrimental to my productivity for the rest of the day? And by switching things around, how did that affect things? How did doing homework at certain times affect how I did, and all of that fun stuff. Finally, I had to experiment with ways of doing things. I started making schedules and to-do lists and trying to find different ways to pinpoint my productivity, my motivation, and try to make it as beneficial as possible. Additionally, I changed a lot of things. Like, for example, instead of just giving myself an overarching task, I would give myself something smaller to do. So instead of saying clean my room, I break it down into smaller tasks, such as clean my desk and then make my bed. And by doing that, I was able to break it down into smaller pieces, which were easier to accomplish and made the overall goal seem much easier to get to. So this is a schedule list that I made. What I was able to do with this is I could look at what days were harder for me. Like Mondays were difficult because I not only did I have two activities almost back to back, but I also always had homework to do. So by seeing this, I had to look at what days were more difficult and what days I needed to kind of focus on and kind of be more attentive and on top of my homework with. What have I changed so far? Some of the smaller things I've changed is I try and do my homework first after school. I find that when I get home from school, I'm in the working mindset, and so by doing it immediately when I get home, I'm more likely to do it, and also I'm not putting it off for later. I also try and get dressed first thing in the morning. By doing this, I kind of set myself up for the day, and I prepare myself to get ready, and it ultimately speeds up my routine. I also try and complete one important task before going to bed. Whether it's just cleaning my desk or getting my stuff together for the next day, by doing one thing before I go to bed, I don't put it off for later. And I'm also often really motivated at that time for some reason. So I can kind of take advantage of that without staying up late. And then, like I said, I set specific goals for myself to make it more digestible and easier to accomplish. So moving on to my habits of mind. Firstly, I had mindfulness. I had to confront what motivates me in this project. I had to think about what mattered to me and what didn't, and be aware of how my actions affected how I went through my day and how doing certain things and acting a certain way would change my motivation. With this, I was able to kind of see I did tests earlier because I was able to analyze and see what worked and what didn't work and be mindful of how that affected me. And a way I saw it outside of Humanities was I took on a role as assistant director in my siblings' middle school musical. This is Us. So not only was that a lot of new not only was that something I'd never done before, it was also a newfound responsibility because I was partially in charge of a lot of middle schoolers, and I had to think about how my actions and my behaviors would affect them and how they acted, and also would affect the successfulness of our production as a whole. I had to be mindful of how I acted and how I went through my work, and had to think about how they would react to what I did. Next was reflectiveness. So I had to reflect and analyze and edit what worked best in my routine and kind of see what worked and what didn't and how did it change my productivity. And with this, I kind of found how I work best so far. I was able to really streamline a lot of my schedules, a lot of my routines, whether it be morning or night, and to kind of keep myself motivated to get through them, to do my homework earlier. And I saw outside of Humanities in the way that I improved my in-class work ethic. I was able to notice that, hey, if I need to be on top of something, if I need to get something done, if I put my headphones in and listen to music, then I'm able to stay focused and zone out distractions. I also started using an app called Storygraph, which helped me track my books and see books I read the fastest and which type of books I read the most, to kind of take note of and see how I could read the best and get books that I like the most, to kind of improve my reading and reflect on that. Next was accountability. I had to acknowledge my struggles and note when I struggled and succeeded, as well as take ownership of my successes and failures. I especially saw this outside of Humanities when I had to accept the results of my actions in class, specifically when I got a grade I didn't like. I had to acknowledge that it was me who had taken that test or made that presentation, and that I could have worked hard. If I didn't like the grade, I could have worked harder and I could have studied more, and that going forward, that's something I needed to do, and I needed to be accountable for my own actions and take note of what works and what doesn't so that I can improve in the future. Lastly was intentionality. I had to assess how I could improve, and I adjusted my schedule to meet my goals. I was able to take note of my intentions and know what works and what doesn't work, and kind of just think of ways to improve it and improve my intentions. I saw this outside of Humanities, especially in hobbies and especially horseback riding. I was able to kind of see what improved me the most, take note of the workouts that had the most positive benefits, and have myself do those. Even if it was something that hurt or that I didn't like, or I knew it would benefit me in the long run. And so I took the time during lessons and during my own individual practice time to work extra hard to complete those workouts, because I knew it would make me stronger in the end. It's a little photo of me and my horse. So going forward, this project is far from over, and while I made many improvements, I will continue to work on my motivation as I go through life. As I've said, it is such an important aspect of my life that everyone needs to accomplish, so I hope to continue to improve it and improve my productivity. And eventually, I hope, like I said, to share my findings with others and help other people. Thank you.